Joined by Cammy Kerr. Cammy, thanks a lot for coming on, mate. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, mate. Thanks very much for having me on.
Aye, pleasure. I just want to start off by asking what your early football memories are.
Early football memories. Probably about maybe 4 or 5, and it was I used to go to a place, Dick McTaggart Sports Centre, in the summer, and that was my summer as a youngster, and then very early doors going to Dens as a season ticket holder at 5-year-old, and those vague memories of watching the players that I obviously grew up watching. So I'd probably say they were my very early memories. I can imagine. So I can remember my very first football strip being a Barcelona top with Ronaldo on the back. Obviously,
how's it not a Dundee top?
Well, I know my birthday. I think it was maybe my 5th or 6th birthday. I had my first Dundee top with Wanzara on the back.
Who first got you into going to Dens and supporting Dundee?
It would have been my dad. There was no pressure on me to go to Dens. It was kind of obviously just a decision that was asked upon by my dad or whatever. But I was just buzzing. I remember the first time I played football, you just fall in love with it. Just that kind of, don't know, that feeling just brings you back. You start kicking a ball every day. You start going out practicing your keepy ups, and every day you're like, nah, I need to get better. I need to get better. I need to get 10 this week or 20 keepy ups this week, and it kind of snowballed from there. And obviously started going to Dens.
Who was your favourite players when you initially started going to Dens? Who was the players that you liked to watch?
Yeah, well, obviously I grew up, and it was kind of that era when there was like Nimzadze, Fabian Caballero, Wanzara. Obviously, loads of people know that Barry Smith's kind of my hero, and it wasn't until actually a bit older and when I kind of got slightly older that I realised what Barry had done for Dundee in terms of obviously me growing up being a Dundee fan. He was a captain in a team that was full of probably like superstars for Dundee. When Kanija played, there was Gavin Ray, Nimzadze, Kishnashvili, all these players. And obviously I loved him as growing up because he was Dundee captain. But it's not until you're that wee bit older that you realise probably how good he was in my eyes in terms of being a captain at the club and how many games he played. He played over 400 games for the club.
And signing for Dundee, talk to me about how that came up.
Well, early doors, I was I obviously joined Dundee when I was 8, and I was just kind of a young boy. I was playing for Ferry Athletic in Dundee, which is a Sunday boys team, and I had training maybe with them twice a week. But every other night, I'd be going to the Dundee community classes out with, and that was just down at the local public park. And a friend of mine now, actually to this day, Craig Ferret, I was just down playing with them, and picked me up, and I remember my dad got a phone call one day, and he was like, "Would your son be okay to come to training tonight at Kirkton at 5:30 till 6:30?" I was like, "What, for the actual Dundee?" He's like, "Yeah, actual Dundee." So I went along. My dad took us up, trained, done really well. Obviously, just totally buzzing in my element that I was getting to train with Dundee. I think we used the old traffic cones as like goals and everything. That's how it was. But like I say, back in still only 27, but back when I was so young, it was the old traffic cones, and you're just playing on any piece of pitch you could get. I think that must have been about a Tuesday. I think it was the Thursday. My dad again, I remember, got a phone call at his work. He played fives on the Friday, because I remember he was at the lunch centre, and one of the coaches had phoned him and said, "Look, can he come tomorrow? That we're playing against Rangers at Murray Park." So that was the kind of start of it from there. 8-year-old playing for the under 11s at Murray Park, started on the bench. But people in Dundee will know that the boogie bus was the old bus that used to take all the people to Deja Vu, the nightclub in Dundee. That was the bus that took us through on the Saturday morning to Murray. No. The young lads on the Deja Vu bus. Obviously at the time I was none the wiser, but yeah, that was the start of it.
What's your favourite memories that you look back on coming through the academy at Dundee?
You know what, I've got so many, but it's mainly to do with the boys that we had growing up. I must admit, we had a good bunch of boys who were good talented footballers, but we generally got beat every other week that we played. Generally through, it must have been the smallest football side you'll ever see. and we just got, after about 60 minutes, we'd get ran over the top. We wouldn't be able to compete with teams physically. And most weeks it would end in defeat. But you go back to those memories of like away days on the bus with all your team and the laughs that you used to have, and used to sing songs about the coaches and that on the way back, and it was great togetherness as a youngster. So looking back at those memories, even I'm still pals with a few boys now, and every time we see them, we just talk about those good times that we had. And I think we had a good relationship with some of the coaches as well, so it was good at that time at Dundee. And that's what I'd probably say was my, no specific like one thing that sticks out. Obviously, you've got memories of scoring good goals and stuff. And I remember I scored a goal in a derby, a youth derby. That would probably stick out personally for football reasons, but for youth, like memories, just the experience of playing with good people, good friends. And that was something that drove you on every week, actually. When you used to go away to teams in Glasgow and stuff, that used to be your kind of, your impetus to go and try and get a victory.
Dundee have always kind of brought some pretty good players through. There's a few as well now. I know some people kind of say, like, I had Dick Campbell on, for example, and he says previously that there's a lot of teams that, well, he wasn't really for academies as such, because he says that a lot of the bigger clubs will just kind of steal the players. Are you part of that argument that you're for them?
I think I'm for them, but I understand where he's probably coming from, in the fact that, like, now it's like your son or daughter's getting poached at the age of 5, 6, and it's like you must do this, and it's so regimented, and you're at training 5, 6 times a week. That wasn't the way it was when we were young. Like, I was getting picked up for the team I loved, and that's just the honest truth. So I was totally like in awe of having this opportunity, and that's what it was for all of us, was an opportunity to go and play for Dundee. And everyone and that's not being like big-headed, because it's far from it, but everyone in the school wanted to play for Dundee United, and I was lucky enough I got to do that, and so did other boys. So I understand what Dick's coming from with that, in terms of like, yeah, your son now is like, oh, he's maybe 12, 13, and he's getting picked up by big clubs. But again, I just see that as an opportunity for somebody, and that's probably the way football is now, sadly, at academy level. I don't see that changing. But for us, when we were growing up, it was just an opportunity to go and, try and be a football player. And we didn't have the greatest facilities at all. Like, we'd be training on the public parks where you'd be avoiding, dog crap or whatever it may be, but we didn't even think twice about that. Like, that was the kind of probably people that we surrounded ourselves with. They were just grounded people.
No, I agree with you. At what point did you start thinking that you've got a chance here?
My honest answer, and I'm not just saying this because we're on a podcast and you're trying to sound good. I've never once sat and thought about, like, this, I've got a chance, or I've made it, or anything like that.
No, you can't say that now.
No, honestly, to this day, I never sat and went, like, I've made it. Because every day I'm sitting there, like, thinking, oh, I need to be better at this, I need to do that. Like, never is there time to sit and... I don't even sit and look back on really, like, what I've achieved up to now, which I still want to achieve so much more. Like, there's never a time where I sit and just think, oh yeah, like, I made it that game. Like, the only game that I'd think or look back at that I thought really defined me is probably my first SPL start, which was against United in the derby, after a really tough period of being out on loan and stuff. That's the only time that I would say is maybe even a turning point in my career, I'd say.
Talk to me about your debut for Dundee. What was that like for you and your family as well?
Yeah, my debut was special. It was against Livingston under John Brown, and we were actually getting beat 1-0 at the time. And I'd been in and around the first team. I'd been training really well, and John Brown, to his enormous credit, was brilliant with me. He was probably what, again, you go back to management and coaching, that epitomises who I would want to be in terms of his honesty and work rate and getting the best out of people. So I'd been on the bench, out the squad for the weeks upcoming to this game, and we're getting beat 1-0, and there was nothing happening in the game. like it was a nothing game. Dundee were really poor that day, and usually they were, firing quite well that season, and nothing was happening. And I just remember the manager turning around and saying, right, go and get warmed up. And everyone's looking at me going, he's going to be all over the place, nerves here. And so I remember the physio, Karen Gibson at the time, had sent Kyle Benedictus, go and help him, go and warm up with him. So I was up at the Bobby Cox end warming up, obviously asking Kyle everything on, do you think I'm going to go on this and that? And then I remember the whistle from John Brown, both hands he was able to do it, and he just whistled me in and went, go and get yourself ready, son. So I came on for 10 minutes, had a shot. Played right mid, had a shot on target, thought I was maybe going to sneak in. Just ran about off sheer adrenaline, and that was the debut, and it was just a total, that's everything that I'd genuinely dreamed of growing up, was to play for Dundee, and to that day I done it. And I saw a thing with Gary Neville the other day that was like, he put up his debut for Man U on his Instagram. And this was 30 years ago, Tuesday or something, and he was like, if I'd died the next day, I would have, had my dream.
I've seen that, aye.
And that was similar to me at that time. Like, that was just like, I was like, if I die tomorrow, I don't mean I've played for Dundee, and it was a great experience. Obviously we got beat, which was the bad bit, but on a personal note, it was good. I'm
not even a Dundee fan. It's absolute class just hearing you speak about that. Like, hear somebody so buzzing just to play for the club they support. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no. Look, it was totally special. And I'm not just trying to say this because it looks good to be a Dundee fan, but even every time I do play for Dundee, I understand how privileged I am to play for a club that I love. I was at the Celtic Real Madrid game the other week, and I saw like footballers in the crowd, and I found it weird. But I thought to myself, well, that's like me going to a Dundee game. You know what I mean? Like, boys are just going to watch their team.
I know.
And Dundee's, I've been lucky enough that Dundee's my team, and I've got to play for them for a while.
Well, I speak to you about the loan to Peterhead. That's definitely a reality check going up there. What do you think the benefits of that were for you?
So many. Like, I ended up going twice to Peterhead. Again, obviously I have a massive thanks to Jim McNally. He picked me up every Wednesday for training, took me to games on a Saturday, all the way up to Peterhead, having to listen to me for an hour and a half up there. The group of boys in the changing room were great at Peterhead, but as you say, total different kind of ball game. You're turning up on a Wednesday night after guys have been working all day. They've not been getting to prepare all day for training like I had been. You're going home, taking your kit home to wash. You're getting no food after training. But just a real hard working environment where I learned so much. And I must admit that those times going on loan were so polar opposites from the first to the second. The first time was so good. I scored my first professional goal. I got young player of the season at Peterhead, and then thought, right, okay, I'm coming back to Dundee now. I've surely got a chance at playing. And realistically, I wasn't ready, and that was the honest truth. And I ended up going back on loan, and my head probably just, looking back now, wasn't in it, when that's probably a learning curve looking back. I was getting sent off. I was not playing my football. I was just really, but I ended up not playing for a while in there. And then Jim McNally had pulled me about 6 to 8 weeks to go. And I remember sitting in his car at Brecon after the game and just totally down about football. And he said, I'm gonna cancel your loan. Gonna cancel your loan and gonna put you back to Dundee. The derby's in 6 weeks. And I was sitting there thinking to myself, like, are you taking the mick out of me here? Like, I can't get a game at Peterhead just now in League One, but you're thinking I've got a chance of playing in the Premier League in 6 weeks' time in a derby. Like, but I didn't say anything. But that was my thinking at the time. And I don't know how it worked out the way it did, but I played in that derby, and
that's insane.
But that's what you go on about, maybe luck or turning point or deserving your luck. I don't know. I really don't know, but I can't look back on that moment. I'm just grateful for every opportunity that I've had.
when you returned to Dundee after those loans, when did you start properly feeling like a first team player?
Again, it's probably not something that I sit and think about in terms of being a first team player. I understand now that I'm more of an experienced player if you talk about that. But I was still in the young lads dressing room at that point when I was playing in the first team. So probably the season after that, when I got moved through to the first team dressing room, and you've got your name plaque and that on the dressing room, somebody's on your boots to clean them. That's probably the first time that you think, right, I'm in the first team dressing room. I need to make this count, and I'm part of it. I'd probably say that was the time that I thought, yeah.
And when that happened, was there anyone that, when you went back to Dundee, maybe took you under their wing, made you feel a lot more comfortable in the squad?
Yeah, look, I've had loads of people over the years, and I can talk about different eras and how influential people were. Like, even from my first start at Dundee, the day before, Craig Beattie stopped me on the way out, and he was like, he actually stopped me, grabbed me, went, tomorrow, we were playing Cowdenbeath, it was my first start, and he went, you're one of us now. He's like, you puff your chest out and you believe that you're good enough to play because you deserve it.
That's class.
I walked out feeling 10 feet tall like that day, and came in on the Saturday like buzzing. Just wee things like that. I've obviously had, I'm probably going to miss people out because there's been that many. Like even Jim McAllister, the way that Jim McAllister used to train every day to be the best trainer. I go back to like the people that have probably hardened me up. I look at, you've probably heard the stories about Darren O'Day, Gowser, McPake, who terrorised me at times, but it made me stronger as a person, and to deal with tough times. So when I was coming through, they three probably were the ones that really did toughen me up. So yeah, but there's plenty of other people as well. Like, I go back to Barry Smith, who was a hero of mine, but he ended up being my manager. So like the respect and for him was just through the roof.
Were you all working under him?
Yeah, every day was like surreal. But I used to take a pelters off the young lads about it because they knew. But yeah, I want to say that was when probably many people don't know this. Probably the first time that I would say this. Actually, I've not said this in any other time that I've spoke. But the day Barry got sacked, I was proper like devastated. Like it was. I remember that we were usually off on a Wednesday, because we had to go to college as young lads. And I don't know, it might have been because of this, but for some reason we had to go to Dens on the Wednesday afternoon, and we turned up, and I was in a car school with a couple of young lads because I couldn't drive at the time. And we turned up, and all the cameras were outside Dens, and I just knew straight away.
Were you devastated because of who he was to you, or how good he was for you?
Probably both. Like I'm just a big believer in like things that are like, legends and that at the club, like they deserve their place.
Yeah.
He had his place as manager, and I probably at the time, like, I need to not watch what I say here, but at the time he probably was hard done by with what happened and the way that he was sacked, in terms of we didn't even know what league we were going to be playing in. And I know for a fact that the players loved him, and he was just such a massive part of what Dundee was and what it epitomised. And that's why I'm so strong about some feelings towards like ex-players and stuff like that, because I knew that straight through the club, like even to the kitchen staff, like they absolutely loved him. They absolutely loved him, and they built up that relationship throughout all the years. And then it was kind of like the end of an era a wee bit when that day that he'd been sacked.
I'm asking you about being in awe of Barry Smith. What was it like as a fan for you going into that dressing room, having to be a part of it, and then like is it no mental just trying to have conversations with players you were watching on the Saturday or whatever? Yeah,
it is. It's I'd say it's something that I reckon that I have been quite good at, though, in terms of dealing with, like, as soon as I'm, I come in that dressing room or I come through the front doors, it's right, my time to be better, and I've got to be a professional. Like I remember when Neil McCann was doing the TV, I was still a young boy at Dundee, but he was coming through the corridors, and I've asked him for a photo. After he scored that Defiance goal in the Defiance season, and then 3-4 years later, he ends up being my manager. So just weird things like that have happened that have maybe meant to be throughout the years. But I'd say I've always been quite good at like understanding like the professional side of it and knowing, you've got to really knuckle down, and they things you can't probably let yourself get too full of emotion, which at times maybe I have, and let my emotion kind of play a part. But I think as I get older, it's something that I'm dealing with better.
Like you say, I think there is times where, so how would you word it? The fact that you almost need to turn off the fact you're a fan, because you end up just maybe be a wee bit rash and stuff.
Yeah, and that is probably something that I've been labelled with a lot, which I don't like getting labelled with that. Oh, you care too much, or you try too hard, or and sometimes you can. I understand that to a certain degree, but that's the way I am, and I can't change the way that I feel, or if I'm out the team, I can't probably hide my emotions great and stuff like that. That's just the way I am as a person. I'm not going to try any less, or stuff like that. That's just the way I am and the way I've been brought up. Yeah, probably through being a Dundee fan and all that time that I've been grown up as a youth player, and all the learning you do throughout the years. That's what's made me who I am. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I can tell even just for, we were speaking before we actually started recording, like you can tell by the way you play as well, everything's just completely 100%. You're not going to give any less than that.
No, and I've never known anything less. Like that's when I do the coaching. I've asked like kids in the past, are you giving me everything you've got? And sometimes the answer has been no, and I can't get that in my head, how the answer couldn't just be 100% all the time. But boys are sometimes saying, Cammy, you've got to maybe sometimes just have a day off and chill out. So I might need to start doing a bit more of that.
You've had quite the journey with Dundee so far. What would you say the highest high is, and what would you say the lowest low would be?
Well, the lowest low would be relegation, and it's a horrible thing to touch on, but it's the reality of football. I've had to deal with two at Dundee, and the first time that it happened was, I mean, you could talk about it forever. It was accumulation of just so many things that were wrong with things that were going on off the park. I wasn't playing. I was in and out of squads. Obviously, just think of the frustration and not being able to help from the stands. I was then put in towards the end of the season, and I felt helpless. To be fair, it was just a horrendous kind of period. Obviously, we'd been relegated last season, and it's terrible to say, but what's went before prepares you for that. I was in absolute pieces the first time we got relegated, because I felt like it was not on my head, but I felt like, well, I'm relegated with Dundee, it's my fault, it's this and that. It's not always the case. It wasn't the case. That when you're a younger person, you take a lot of that yourself, and I struggled for a while with that. It was horrendous. But then the highs, there's been a lot. People say there's certainly more lows in football, but I've got to enjoy the highs of promotion. 2 promotions with Dundee. The first one I only played a couple of times as an 18-year-old.
Didn't say that. You've got to still take it.
Well, I know, but I mean, to be fair, yeah, I played 2 of the last 4 games as well of that season, which were high pressure games. And obviously the promotion and the COVID season, which was a bit different. I would have loved to enjoy it more with my friends and family being at the game. But there's other accolades as well that I look at, and personal things like getting player of the year at Dundee and stuff, and captaining Dundee against United in the cup. Like that's something that
would be something that you've dreamt of.
Yeah, something that I've always you have those imaginative thoughts about doing that when you're older, and you never think it'll happen, and it's happened, which things are special, because maybe when I do look back after my career, touch wood, it's a prolonged career and it's a good career, but they're hopefully things that I look back at in years to come and think, do you know what? Yeah, I'm proud that I've done that.
I think the lows such as relegations, because again, I don't want to keep touching on it, but obviously being a Dundee fan, I think that hits you even harder and you maybe beat yourself up even more, like you said.
Yeah, I think that was just like, there were so many things that year that had happened. Like, obviously, McIntyre came in at Dundee and he wasn't playing me. He didn't want. I don't think he actually wanted a lot of people to do with Dundee and around it. There was a lot of things that were going on at the time that, you know, there was about 12 signings came in the January, and there was quite a big split in terms of, you know, the people that were there had been put to one side. For a while I was still playing, and then suddenly it was you're left out the squad. You're not basically required. While he was there. But then it came round that he needed me for the last remaining games, and he suddenly wanted me to be part of it. And that's the difficult part, because obviously you'll play for the club. You don't want to play for what's, you know, maybe what the manager has done for apparent reasons, but you play for what you feel's right, and you play for the club and what you love. And so I went and done my job, and it was probably just, I remember the Hamilton game when we got relegated, the whole place was just, you know, sapped to energy. It was, I could sense it in the crowds. Even before the game, the crowd wasn't big, it was nervy. I was actually centre midfield that day, playing like a defensive like role against a man marking job sort of on Tony Andrew at the time. And it just got to me at the end of the game. It totally filled me up with emotion. I couldn't keep it in. I went to clap the fans because I was out of contract at the time as well. And I thought this could be my last kind of time at Dundee, and it all got too much for me at the time. But obviously things changed. You know, McIntyre left, and McPake came in, and you know, he made me his first sign-in. To be fair to him, and he, you know, things changed for the better at that point.
And as one of the players that was at Dundee last season, like we said, tough season for you. I can't have you on and no ask about Mark McGee. And I'm not going to slaughter him. I just want to ask, what was it like as players, like maybe seeing some of the stuff he was saying about the heat and no eating and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, look, seeing that on I could easily say it would affect us genuinely, and that's just me being brutally honest. None of that stuff I even thought twice about. Like, see when he came out and said about the heating or when I'll go naked and stuff, like, I found that quite funny. It was probably,
that's what I think. I think you'd find it quite funny.
I look back and think, you know what, he was maybe just trying to distract a bit of the pressure from the players or whatever, even though it probably done the opposite effect in the end. When the announcement was made as McGee taking over from McPake, I think a lot of the fans thought it was maybe uninspiring or not, you know what I mean, quite as exciting as liked. We didn't get the results. We didn't get the results that were needed to keep us up. He probably didn't have the, talk about the energy, but the total, you know, enthusiasm to really turn the club round and bring everyone with him. But see, to be genuinely honest, he was a total gentleman with me. And I've you know, have a lot of time for him as a person, and that's just the honest truth. I think first and foremost, before you become, you know, a good manager, you've got to be a proper person, and he certainly was that to me anyway. So I can only go on what he was to me personally. You know, I gave him, as I do with most managers, if they do, you know, part ways, I'd like to give him a nice message and say thanks for the time that they've given me and try to improve me. And I gave him one as well because I thought he was due it.
I think with that whole thing, I think what he's tried to do is basically try and pull everyone together through humour and at his expense type thing. I know that question, it sounds like I'm pure trying to stitch you up about that.
No, I mean, like I would just, as a, you know, I've got nothing to really, I'll just be honest, but he was genuinely a gentleman to me anyway, and I've got nothing really bad to say against him other than, you know, maybe it was the wrong timing for him or, you know, something like that, I don't know. But certainly towards me, he was a gentleman.
Moving on to the new manager, Gary Bowyer. How's he been and what's he changed since he came in?
Yeah, he's been good. He's there's been a lot of changes happening in the summer, so there's kind of been a whirlwind of change. Firstly, I think what's helped is we've changed kind of base where we're at for training. We're at a different complex now. It's kind of our own. We used to be, traveling to Dens, traveling down to training, back to Dens, and it was quite, logistic wise, it wasn't great. But he's been really positive around the place. He's came in with a breath of fresh air and trying to, galvanise the whole place, because I talk about a lot of things that have maybe went on in the past in that spell between, McIntyre and stuff like that. But there's a lot of good people at Dundee Football Club. I think a lot of people forget that, and certainly within the football, sometimes, the people that have worked at Dundee, they sometimes have bad words to say, but Dundee's a club to me that there's so many good people that work in, and the work, the work that these people put in is what, for me, is Dundee Football Club is about, and it's that hard work at everyone kind of getting together. And he's certainly seen that, I think, and he understands what good people he's got, that can really help work with them.
I think just going by social media, and obviously, like I said to you, the games on the telly and stuff, it seems like he's got a proper sort of connection to the fans. And I think Dundee, for doing well and stuff, they will follow in numbers. I think that definitely helps the team as well. Yeah,
that's something that
it's gave them something to back again, I think.
Yeah, and that's something that, again, I probably look at as a fan when I shouldn't really need to bother about that stuff. But that connection maybe has been lost over the last few years. Certainly been there and dipped a few times in the past years when there's been that sense of optimism with new managers coming in with a good run of form. But he's certainly done that up to now, I think. I think even in the pre-season games, we were staying out on the pitch and just doing our wee team talk there, and the fans were staying behind. They were getting behind it, and obviously I think they've got their song for him now and stuff like that. So it is really positive. I just hope that, well, it's our job to go and get the results. Like, that's what it comes down to. And hopefully we can repay all the hard work that the club are trying to do.
The ambitions for this season, what are they?
Collective,
back in the Prem.
Yeah, that's got to be it. I mean, there's no beating around the bush with it. There's no other way to put it. There's only one goal that it's got to be, and it's got to be to bounce back as quick as you can. It's going to certainly, we've found out already, there's going to be hurdles along the way that you're going to need to deal with, and you're going to have to deal with, talk about adversity and things that are going to go against you. That's going to happen so many times this season. But it's how you ride that out, and how you, pretty cliched saying it, but it's, it's how you come out the other side of it. And we've certainly got a strong squad there in terms of people. I always go back to people first and foremost before you're a player or anything like that. We've got good people there who are willing to work hard, and that takes you such a long way.
And on to you, I don't think that gets spoken about enough, to be honest. The fact that 27 got a testimonial coming up, and also in terms of your coaching badges and stuff as well, going for your A license, you were saying previously, that's just unbelievable to be 27, all that.
Look, maybe when I do look back and I think,
you don't like bigging yourself up, do you?
No, I actually don't. I'm just being brutally honest. Like, I always look at it, and I think I'm into like the top 45 all-time appearance record holding, but like, that's Dundee. I mean, that is, and that's something that I look towards and strive towards. But I think a lot of people look at me and think, oh, he's at Dundee. He's just happy to sit at Dundee, and that's him. And people that know me, like, I'm not saying that I want to be at another club. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm trying to say is every day I'm trying to be better and be the best I can be. So I don't sit and think about probably accolades and deep inside my head and inside my goals and that, I've got that there definitely. But every day I'm just trying to be that wee bit better in what I am. And sometimes I probably get caught up in it too much and do things that I shouldn't do, in terms of, probably get slaughtered for this, but like running on days where I should be resting, or coaching when I should be, relaxing. But that's just me, and then nobody's going to change that, I don't think. And even tonight, I'll be away coaching tonight, and I've got my session ready to go, and I'm buzzing for it. And tomorrow I'll be up doing my extras at the training ground and stuff like that, and trying to get the younger lads to come and do their extras, which, you know what I mean, I always want to do. But yeah, you know what, I'll see what the next, hopefully 10 to 15 years brings as a player, because I want to play till as long as I can. I pride myself on trying to be fit, trying to be, again, in the best condition that I can be. But that takes hard work, and hopefully I can continue to do that.
And for your testimonial, I've obviously seen bits and bobs on Twitter and stuff, but what events have you got coming up, and what have you already had?
Well, firstly, had the night with Canija, so that was an opportunity that came up.
That's incredible. I've seen that.
It was incredible. Honestly, I couldn't believe it when it was first mentioned. It was a good friend of mine who was on the committee was saying, "Look, there's an opportunity that Claudio's coming across to do a few things, but there's a spare night here that we're thinking about going with." And I'm going, "What? Like, Canija's actually, what? We've got a night with Canija. Like, is that the script? Is that what happened?" And he's like, "Look, yes." I'm like, "No chance." He's like, "Yes, it's happening. It's confirmed. We've got it in." I'm like, "Right, perfect." So then it started to come together really quick. And we've got Stephen Milne, who was, he was a Dundee player and he was a local player, so we thought it'd be good to get him in, and he played with Claudio as well. We also had Charlie Adam, who stayed with me last year, and who's a fantastic footballer, who's had a great career. And we had Speroni.
Some lineup, eh?
Incredible. And then Claudio Canija, and I'm just sitting there going, like, I was praying the night before. I was dead nervous the night before. And then the day came, and it was just, it couldn't have went any better. It was like a Q&A, but it was a relaxed feel to it. It was on was it a Saturday? It was on a Saturday, mid to late afternoon. So people were had went a few day drinks and stuff, and I think there was a few games of football on. So everyone turned up in great spirits, and it just went so well. There was a few good stories from Claudio about, his time with Maradona, a few silly stories about myself. But then leading on to probably the next event, the Cy Ferry event.
That'll be good.
That's going to be a terrible night for me. I'm going to get absolutely slaughtered, I think. And I don't know if I'll be able to show my face after that. But it's going to be a good
one-on-one with Cy.
Well, no, there's going to be guests as well. So we've got all the guests that are announced. There'll be Craig Whiting, who obviously I grew up playing with. We've got Rab Douglas, who I was a young lad with, Peter McDonald, and we've also got a couple. So we've basically tried to do it from like being a young lad, growing up, coming through in the present.
Uh-huh.
We've got Darren O'Day, Paul McGowan, and obviously Ryan Sweeney and Adam Legston's from the current squad. But there's going to be a few other wee things in there as well, I think, in terms of like, all my old youth boys and that'll be coming. So it'll be a good night. It'll be kind of a night to treasure. And then obviously we've got the dinner and stuff on the 28th of January. So we've got that. The game's the tough bit to get organised, but that's still in the pipeline as well.
Anything close to getting lined up for the game yet?
Well, no, there's a few things, that are quite hard to get final details, but we're still working on a really good thing with that.
I really, really feel for you for that Cy Ferry night.
Yeah, that's going to be...
It'll be a good laugh, that, though.
It'll be a great laugh.
For you.
You've got to take it on the chin, I think, whatever happens.
It might not be the greatest laugh for you, but I think the crowd will enjoy it.
Oh, they'll have a great night, that's for sure.
No, definitely. You deserve it. It's
great
serving to Dundee. It's hopefully Dundee fans turn out in their numbers for it. And the game as well.
I hope so, yeah. You know what, they came to the last one, and I think every one of them will say they had a great day, so that's all I could try and give for that.
But it's all right with you, mate. We'll finish off on the quick fire questions.
Yeah, the quick fire. I just had a wee think of that, yeah.
Oh, come on, you can't. I've warned you. I pre-warned you about it.
Yeah, there's a fair few that I could put in there. Right, so we need a goalie in there.
So you're starting off with your best five-a-side team of players you played with, and why?
Yeah, I'm going to go with that. Best keeper. what I played with would be, well, when I was coming through full time, it'd have to be big Rab Douglas. I didn't actually get to share a pitch with him, but I was there and amongst it and about the squads and that, and just a total way. I was on his boots and stuff as a young lad. Now I don't know why, but the couple of years when you're apprentice, you're absorbing as much as you can and learning off all the good and bad. He was just good habits down the gym. And what you'll probably think is, oh, you're always going about other things other than them playing. But they're the things that make players for me in terms of all the other things, because Saturday takes care of itself for these pros. He was a great goalie. But everything he done off the pitch, he was always in the gym. He would always, want things done right. He always wanted his boots done right, polished every day, put at his place. And I thought that's the proper way to be a player.
He had such a good career as well.
Yeah, I'd put him in. I'm going to just go top of my head. Glenn Kamara.
That's a good shout, that.
Glenn Kamara would have to be in there. He came up when, and nobody really, not knew too much about him. Knew to be in Arsenal and stuff, but from the first day he came in, I thought, this guy's a level above. Everything he done, he could. Every week, I literally used to just roll him the ball, and he'd do the rest. I'd probably roll him a few dodgy passes at a lot of the time. He used to get out it. I thought, thank goodness we've got him in the middle, because he just used to get his way out of situations all the time. He kept it simple, kept the game ticking over, and that's probably, like in football, you talk about like players doing their jobs, and he done it brilliantly in what he done. I'd say, who else? I'd need a defender in there, but I would probably be Daz O'Day. But then I thought it would be him.
This is your chance to slaughter him.
Well, I can't. He's got too much on me. It'd be a toss up between him or Stephen Cocker.
I forgot you played with him actually.
Stephen Cocker. You know what? I'd probably go Cox for what he. He was in an England international. I know Daz obviously played international as well, but that Steve Cox was Premiership player. He came to Dundee for such a short spell and probably a tough time in his career actually. But what a football player! What a football player! He was so calm on the ball. He was a great defender. Never seen him kind of get done for pace or look out of position. So I'd probably put Stephen Cocker in there, because he went and kicked on again after he'd.
I know.
There was rumours of him going to Celtic and stuff when he was still at Dundee. So I'd put him in there. Glenn Kamara, Rab Douglas. I'd have to put Charlie in there.
You've got to.
I left him out the one we done at the last event, but that was to kind of wind him up. Yeah, I've got to put him in. Honestly, his left peg's the best I've seen.
What a midfield two that is.
Glenn Kamara and Charlie Adam.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. Unbelievable. He was, again, probably coming to the end of his career, but had the joy of sharing a pitch with him, and he's one of the only players that I can see switch a ball the way he does, and it's consistent all the time.
Aye. That's why he's had the career he's had.
Consistently finds you, consistently knows where to play the ball at the right times. He'd probably be the first to say it. He probably didn't get about the pitch as well as he would have liked to in terms of the last couple of years. But I'll tell you what, the way he played the ball is second to none.
You don't have to get about the pitch when you've got a left foot like that.
Exactly. When you're as good as that, honestly, he was brilliant for it. So I'd have to put him in. Maybe
go for a striker.
Well, this is the thing. I was going to put a striker in there, but I don't know if this guy can play striker, because I think I need to have him in my team. And it's Paul McGowan. I was going to put maybe Kane Hemmings or something like that for an out-and-out goal scorer, but Paul McGowan, who, you know what, the reason I'm having him is because if I had to pick a team in training every day, he'd be in my team every day, every single day.
He strikes me as the guy that kind of sets the standards in Dundee.
Yeah, he does in terms of
training and stuff.
Yeah, the way he trains, he's up there with like Jim McAllister in terms of the way he was just consistently good all the time. And if you ever have a bad day, he notice it. You notice it with him because it's so few and far between. And Gowser's obviously probably had, a bit of a tough time for maybe a few of the things that he's done off the pitch in the past. But trust me, he's a top man, and I say a top professional in the way that he absolutely trains and empties every day. And I don't just go about. He's a top player. Yeah, he's so hard to tackle. He's good at all parts of his game. He's tenacious, but he keeps the ball, retains the ball well. Probably one of the best kind of players that I've seen retain the ball for teams and take the ball no matter what and keep it in tight situations and keep the ball moving for you. So I'd put him in there. I would.
A good team,
that. So that would be my team. Obviously, others could get in it. I'll probably get a hard time for not putting boys in. But off the top of my head, there, I'm just thinking of these guys. Obviously, others could have been in it, definitely. But yeah.
On to the next question I've put. I'm just going to ask you this now because if you didn't say him, I'll be so disappointed. The biggest moaner you've played with.
Yeah.
Like, I can imagine there's only one answer to that.
And it's him, yeah. Gowser.
That's an easy one for you.
Every day I need to learn. I don't know how after 10 years of being, 8 years of being with him, but I've still not learned off him. Me and him have had, like arguing like anything, and then he winds me up and tells me things that probably played on my head, and he knows how to get to me as well. But yeah, biggest moaner. But it's because people say in the wrong way at times, but it can come across in the wrong way. But he just wants the best. He's a winner. And that's the way Gowser is, and I don't think anybody would have him any different.
The best stadium that you've played in?
Oh, the best stadium I've played in. I've actually, I'll quickly tell you a story. When I was young, I used to go to like the Manchester United residential camps.
Right.
That was my summer. That's again what I go back to. Like my summer wasn't lying on some place or away. It was going to the residential camps down in England with the Man United. So you go for a week and you'd just literally be like a footballer for a week. You'd stay there, you'd get fed, you'd get watered, you'd be training twice a day, you'd be doing recovery sessions in the pool. And this is from the age of 12 to 16. I'd done that every summer. And throughout those weeks that you were there was obviously loads of good players come from all over the world. And throughout the week you do skills tests. You're passing, you're dribbling, your KP-ups, you're shooting. And at the end of the week, your scores would get tallied up against every other group. There must have been about 12 different groups. And throughout all the summer, there must have been like 20,000 kids that would go. At the end of the week, you'd go to Old Trafford and the actual stadium announcer was there, and you'd sit in front of all your families before you went back to them. And they'd announce who would be the skills winner would be for the week. And on 2 occasions, I actually won that and got to go to what they called the Man United World Skills Final and got to play on Old Trafford twice.
That's insane.
I wasn't in a proper game, so you know what I mean? I can't really, but I've played on Old Trafford. That's
a great story.
So yeah, that was, and I go back to it. I think that I would have been 14, maybe 12 and 14 when I got to the World Skills Final. And I met obviously the Man United first team and met Sir Alex. Obviously, I'm a big, well, not obviously, you don't know that, but I'm a big Man United fan, and I'm like totally, again, you buy into the way that Man United are and the tradition and what they are and what they believe in and all that. And it's just, that's the things that stick with me when I'm.
That's brilliant.
So I'd say Old Trafford if I could say that.
Yeah, that's something as well. I would never have known that you played there. That's a good answer.
Yeah, it was just total amazing. Obviously, again, another wee dream kind of come true. I just wish could have been in a real match. That's the thing.
Your best mate in football?
Best mate? Wow. That's a tough question. A really tough question. Got me thinking. I've got pals. I've got really good pals like Gowser, Darren O'Day. I've got people that are I'm really close with now, like Adam Legsden, Ryan Sweeney, people from the past like Whiting and stuff like that. But I'd probably say one of my closest pals in football would be Matty Allen, who's at Montrose. I grew up with him. I actually went to primary school with him. Ended up going full time with Dundee with him, and he was like my car school buddy. And we're still keeping. I don't see him as, again. That's what I mean by a close friend. I don't see him as much as I should, and stuff like that. But when we see each other, you're just pals, aren't you?
Right.
Well, I've got loads of them, but he's probably one that sticks out in my head. But loads of close pals, so I don't want to miss anyone out. I feel bad for missing anyone out.
The best player that you've played against?
Best player I've played against. We've played players in pre-season and stuff. Like we played Lukaku, Ross Barkley, Navas that was at City. All those players I played against them, but I go back to the game against last year I had against Jota. Jota, he's done it to plenty of people, but I pride myself in my 1v1s, and that day I just couldn't. Second half I couldn't get near it against him. So he's a top player. He's a top player, and certainly a game that. So I'd put him right up there. I'd put him right up there with those guys.
And lastly, your biggest achievement in football?
My biggest achievement. Don't know. Again, it's not something I want to really sit here and say I've done this, I've done that, because I certainly have not. But I think I've said about 5 different answers for this, being asked this in the past. My best achievement would probably be, I don't know, personal note would be player of the year for Dundee, I think, and then in this season where it was my breakthrough season.
Go for that.
Yeah, just for my answer will probably change if you ask me in 2 weeks' time, but just at the top of the head, that's something that I'm dead proud of, because of the story behind the Player of the Year trophy at Dundee as well. Andrew De Vries trophy, which was a Dundee fan who had passed away, and the total meaning behind it, and it was everything that I'd always wanted to do or get, because from the moment I'd went full time, I'd been at the Player of the Year events, and that was the one trophy that everyone had wanted. They've started doing the Player's Player recently, but the Andrew De Vries was the big one that everyone kind of votes for, all the fans and all this, and that's your main trophy. And it was just weird the night that I did get it. I can't remember what it was, but it was like I was looking at the programme, all the last winners, and there was some big names on there, but it was like 20 years before, or when it had first started. The manager that gave me it that night, the first winner, was Neil McCann, who gave me it that night. And 20 years, or it was something like years to the day, it was Barry Smith that had won it, and it was like meant to be that night for me. It was just so weird. So that's why, again, it sticks out.
That's quality. Go for that then, definitely.
I'll go with that.
Absolute top man, mate. Thanks a lot for coming on. Wish you all the best for the rest of the season and the testimonial as well.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate you having me on, and hopefully I'll hear from you soon, mate.